All righty, let's get right to it. Matt Steinmetz, Darryl the Guru Johnson with you, and we're joined by Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon. It's my partner's favorite quarterback of all time, but I'll let him tell you that, Warren. I just have to ask you, what are your first impressions when you see the quarterback situation and how it's playing out here in San Francisco?
Well, first I want to know why I'm not your favorite quarterback.
You're up there. You're on my Mount Rushmore. You're just not in the George Washington position.
Mount Rushmore, I'm good with that. No, I think the quarterback situation there in San Francisco is as unique as you are going to ever find around the National Football League. I mean, you're talking about a guy in Jimmy Garoppolo who is, taking this team to a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 NFC championship games, everything that everybody knows in that area. But here he is, the backup quarterback a year later after being in the NFC Championship game, and the 49ers have their quarterback of the future in Trey Lance, but I think it was just timing and everything that had to do with Jimmy still being there, because if he didn't have to have that shoulder surgery, he probably would have been dealt somewhere like Carolina or who knows where else to need a quarterback this offseason. But because of the injury, I think that kept everybody away, and now they find themselves nowhere for him to go, and I guess he's a welcome participant and doesn't mind staying around this situation. I have a lot of admiration for him for wanting to stay in this situation, given everything that's been dealt to him over the last 6-7 months. So I hope it all works out, but I think it's going to be uncomfortable for both of them.
Warren, I got to be honest. I'm one of these people that I'm about to bring up to you. I know the NFL is a league of men, and I was one of the guys saying, hey, Jimmy needs to be out of town, that you'll ruin the psyche of young Trey Lance. And here we are. Are the Niners sending a message, you think, to Trey, like, we don't even care about that? It's your job. You get the first crack at it. Go be all you can be. Because to hear you say that, it's kind of odd that now Jimmy will be on the sideline and Trey has to deal with the mental of, if I mess up, what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's already enough pressure on Trey that he's taken over a football team that went to the NFC Championship game last year. So there's a lot riding on his shoulders to be replacing the guy that took them there last year. So he's got all those players on that football team looking at him to say he's going to have to be the guy to take us not only that far, but hopefully further. And then you add on top of that, the guy who actually took them to that NFC Championship game is still hanging around, so there's extra pressure on him that he's looking over his shoulder, and maybe that's the reason why he didn't play as well during the preseason as he could have, because Jimmy was always around. He wasn't taking snaps with the offenses or anything, but he was always on the field. His presence was always there, so you just never know how that affects Trey Lance mentally.
Warren Moon joining us on 95.7 The Game, Hall of Fame quarterback. And obviously we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo restructuring his contract, and he'll remain a 49er for at least another year. Warren, I was going to say, if you could put yourself in a place of a 49er fan, but I'll just ask you, as a former great quarterback, you've watched this from afar. Do you think it's fair to think, I wonder if Trey Lance isn't where they thought he would be?
Well, he probably isn't exactly. It's not like he played bad this preseason. He played pretty decent, but I'm sure they would expect a little bit more out of him. And I think the fact that he got a chance to play some last year, I think he played in 5 different games, and so he did get his feet wet a little bit. And he had some success last year, so they probably would have thought the next jump going into that second year would be a little bit bigger. But you never really know in preseason, because you really don't play enough in those games to really get into a flow. Sometimes you play 2 or 3 series and you're out of there. Well, sometimes it takes a little bit longer than that before you really get into the groove of the game. So it's hard to go off of that, but I'm sure they watch him every day in practice, and they see things that maybe he's doing pretty good, but they're also seeing things that they think he should be doing better at this particular point. So we'll just have to wait and see how he starts the season off, and how Jimmy plays into all of this.
Warren, it's funny you said practice, because I don't have to tell you, we're in the era of information, and now if a guy, like a Trey Lance throws 2 or 3 picks in a practice, that's out on Twitter or Instagram or whatnot. And a lot of this offseason was about the rapport that Lance and Ayuk were developing. But I didn't hear Debo because he wasn't around at the beginning, you know, with this contract. And I didn't hear Kittle. My question to you, the Hall of Fame quarterback, is when is it week one that he works on that rapport with everybody else? How does that manifest?
Well, it's going to have to be week one because these guys didn't play a whole lot in the preseason. That was all planned. They don't want to put their starters out on the field very much. That's every team around the National Football League, it seems like. So you're going to have to hit the ground running in week one. And the thing that worries me with these guys not playing in the preseason because they're worried about injury and that is when you come into that first game, you haven't played at all in a game situation. So your adrenaline and all those different things are totally different than what you do in practice. So you're burning up a lot more energy. You get a little bit more fatigued, and you're going to be asked to play now a whole football game when you haven't played a quarter of a football game. And usually when you get tired, that's when you get hurt. So these guys around the whole league, not just the 49ers, are going to be a little bit fatigued, especially in those hot weather games where the weather can be really hot right now. You have to worry about these guys being hydrated enough and making sure they don't have any of these soft tissue injuries that we see always in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, because a lot of these guys get fatigued and then all of a sudden injuries come.
Warren Moon joining us on 95.7 The Game. Warren, you called the situation with Garoppolo restructuring and becoming the backup unique. Like, can you think of anything? Like, did you, when you saw Garoppolo was coming back, did you kind of think in your memory bank? Is there anything you can think of close to this?
Well, unique was just something I used for the radio. It's really weird.
Wow.
This whole situation is just weird to me. I remember when I was with the Oilers and got traded to the Minnesota Vikings. We were coming off a 12-4 season. We ended up getting beat in the divisional round, and they traded me the next year. I mean, they traded me that off season. Because they thought they had the replacement for me and Cody Carlson. So I've kind of been through that before, but if they would have asked me to stay around, I would have never done it.
Right.
I would have said, send me somewhere where I can, get a chance to play, because I know I can still play. So that's about as close as I can relate to it. But yeah, you just don't see a quarterback that's had this much success. Even though people can say, well, they did go and beat Green Bay in Green Bay, but they never scored a touchdown. They never scored an offensive touchdown. They won that football game without the offense doing a whole lot to win that game. So I think those are some of the decisions that led to, Trey Lance even being drafted as high as he was a couple of years ago, because they just feel like Jimmy's not going to get them over the hump to where they need to get to. But it is definitely a situation that's totally weird, totally different. Jimmy has played some really good ball for them, and he hasn't lost a lot of games. He just hasn't been that guy to maybe win games for them, the big games for them. So I don't know how it's going to work out, but I hope it does work out, because I think Trey Lance is a great young man. I got a chance to meet him. I think he's very smart. He's very talented, and hopefully he does all the things that the 49ers are wishing he can do, putting that type of high draft capital into getting him.
Warren, I got to tell you this. You're a mentor to me, and you don't even know it. I've told my 2 young sons about your plight, how you had to start in the CFL, and how you accomplished your goals. And my partner and I, we differ, and I'm going to throw you a curveball on Lamar Jackson. And I believe the Ravens are saying, we don't believe you can be our guy. We thought, but I believe they're talking with the lack of action. But what he's doing, I don't know if you've seen it, he's liking pictures on Twitter with him in a Miami Dolphin uniform. And Warren, I'm just saying, regardless, how would you counsel Lamar? Because I think he's handling this situation all wrong.
Yeah, I thought he had handled it very well up until the last couple of weeks when those things started happening. Putting different pictures of him in different team uniforms and things like that. That's not a professional way to do this. Keep these negotiations private and keep them behind the scenes, and let's handle it that way. But I don't think it's because they don't think he's the guy. I think they're worried about giving that much guaranteed money to a guy who takes that many risks with the way they play football. There's a big chance for him to get hurt. And if you have that much guaranteed money over the next, 5 or 6 years, that's something I think that they're more worried about. Not the fact that he can't play and that he can lead them to where they want to go, but how long can he do that?
Warren, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And, we'll see what happens down here in the Bay.
It's going to be interesting, guys.
Yep.
And weird is a better word.
Yeah, I think I may pick up on that. Thank you, Warren. Appreciate it, man.